All right, Henry. So thanks for coming on the podcast. I appreciate it. And Jack Killian introduced us, right?
Jack introduced us. That's
Yeah.
right.
So I told
Yes.
you, for anybody's listening and hasn't listened to previous episodes, Jack was my first guest on the podcast. I'm not sure if that was like intentional or just kind of worked out where he was willing to come on first, but we spent like 2.5 hours talking about his background and his history, and it ended up being 2 1-hour episodes. So I recommend if anybody tells me, well, what should I start with? I'm like, well, start with the first two,
Yeah,
Like, yeah,
sure.
it wasn't the audio portion of it wasn't as clean as this is because I didn't have the kind of equipment that I have now, but we managed, and it was just a fascinating story. So I'm excited to hear your whole story. Now, of course, Jack has about, I don't know, 40 years on you, but of experience and time and stories. But I'm sure you have enough because Jack told me, and we spoke off the mic about the entrepreneurial ventures that you're involved with. And I even bought some of your peanut butter for my dogs, which I'm trying to convince them to eat. They've eaten some of it, but I've shared some with a friend's dog, and the other dog loves it. He you can't stick his face in the jar. I'm like,
Oh,
here, you better
funny.
take the peanut from us then, because it's gonna slop it all up. So why don't we go back to, like where you grew up, how you got started, because I know you're involved in baseball in high school and college, and then, where the whole entrepreneurial experience or bent or focus came from in
Yeah,
your life. Does that make sense?
absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, just want to, thanks for having me on. I'm very
No
grateful.
problem.
New to podcasts, but,
Yeah.
relative to just
Yeah,
casual
we're going to get you on
conversations.
more. I'm going to introduce you to some others, and we'll get you some guest spots.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something I'm looking to continue to navigate through and get on. But yeah, Jack, we connected about 2 months ago, and it was pretty fast how we established a quick relationship and then grew it from there. So I before I get started, I did just want to say you have a great podcasting voice, and you do
I
a very good
appreciate
job of
it. That may
facilitating.
be more the mic than it is my voice. I don't know, but it's
Maybe.
funny. Jack said the same thing. You should do this for a living. I'm like, well, you figure out how I can do this for a living, and I'll do it for a living. So he's
Yeah, how
working
do
on
I
that.
monetize this?
Yeah,
Sure.
exactly.
Well, you
Well,
could just be Joe Rogan
you got to get a
sponsors.
lot of followers, exactly, and I don't think that's going to happen. But in the meantime, it
Yeah,
supports what I do, and I enjoy it. So like having Jack on was fun,
right.
hearing his whole story. So someday, maybe when we're 80, we can look back and tell our whole story.
Yeah, to hear his whole story, you need like a day, I think.
Yeah.
Just a day, a full day podcast.
Yeah. And you have to pay attention because it gets a little crazy at some point. Did you listen to both the episodes?
I did not, but I recently went through his course
Oh,
where
okay.
he speaks of networking and how to equip it and mastering that. And he spoke very much of his resume and through his experiences.
Yeah,
So
he's
it's
done some
pretty fascinating.
the crazy stories you got to hear that he's like in the middle of the night, he meets Les Paul in his bathrobe. It was just crazy stuff that's happening in and he ended up running, I don't know, 5 businesses, and I think half of them were not by choice. They were just by circumstance where he had to take things over from family and things like that.
Family, his wife, yeah.
Yeah.
So he just got thrown into some. I'm redoing his website right now. That's how he initially started a
Oh,
relationship, and I
okay.
was laughing because I referenced the country music magazine, and I just by happen chance put in the picture a cover of Willie Nelson,
Okay.
and he just slides into this ridiculous Willie Nelson story, and I'm like, how many more of these are there?
Yeah, because that's not even Henry, that's not even on the podcast.
No,
We didn't talk about Willie Nelson.
yeah, and it's just like that meeting that man would be, a highlight for anybody, and just hold on to
I
it. It's like,
know.
man, the one time I went Willie
I
Nelson,
know.
but he's
You
got so
spent a
many
whole
of them.
week with him. Probably he'll still keep coming up with more stories. Oh, wait, I met him. I did this and that, and we helped him
Yep.
launch this. I'm like, you did?
Yeah.
Right.
It's
It's
crazy.
crazy. So, all right, but this
It's
is
it.
about you. So we want to talk about you and your
Sure.
entrepreneurial spirit and all the stuff you're doing. So we were going back to where you grew up and how you got started and things like that.
Sure. So yeah, I got I'm from Gladstone, New Jersey, small little
Okay.
boutique town
Sure.
in Somerset County. I
P-Pack
was
Gladstone, right?
P-Pack Gladstone. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know
It's like
the
horse country, isn't it?
little bit of horse country.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's kind of the middle way of New Jersey from rural to urban.
Yeah. You're probably right. It is. Yeah.
So Yeah, I still have my office here. Very grateful for that. I still got the house I grew up in, and throughout the process, I started in baseball, so that kind of gave way, to everything. As far as I wasn't a good student, I did not excel academically. I didn't really have too much to fall back on, for a musical instrument. I probably wouldn't even got into college if it wasn't for the sport,
Okay.
and that got me into Seton Hall.
Yeah,
And
great
going
school.
into
South
college,
Orange, right? Seton in
South
South Orange?
Orange.
Yeah.
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 It is a good
Pirates.
school. A lot of people go there for, the Lawler business school.
Yeah,
Um, so I went for baseball.
that's fine. Nothing wrong with
um,
that.
no, and I'm very grateful for that. I didn't know, at the time what I was going to do, what I was going to aspire to be. Believe it or not, at the time I was very lazy, and I took for granted my gifts. I didn't work hard, believe it or not. I didn't look to excel academically. My whole focus was really just to pursue a baseball career, and
Like go pro?
not go pro. I knew that wasn't really the path. I felt it within me.
Right.
But while I was there, it was okay. I'm just going to make the absolute best of this and give it everything I got.
Yeah. Well, there's different paths, right? You can go into coaching. You can start working for organizations. You can get involved in public relations. I mean, all kinds of stuff around surrounding baseball, right? You
There's a
could have.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I do remember, to show you kind of where I was at mentally at that state, was to be, and not that there's anything wrong with this, but it was just kind of like my level of goals
Right.
was to be a gym teacher
There you go.
and coach baseball.
Yeah. Well, that's what you would do, right? Because a lot of gym teachers, they need extra money and they coach.
And they coach, yeah. And I right
Now,
now
didn't you guys win? I'm trying to think if I remember. You told me last time. Didn't you guys win a championship? Like one of the, because Seton's in the Big East, right?
in the Big East, right?
Yeah.
And
So,
that's when the Big East was the Big East. Now it's
yeah, I
now
mean,
it's a
it's
little watered
different now,
down,
right? A lot
but
of people have watered it down left. But
yeah.
still, yeah, that was back in what, 10 years ago or something?
That was 2011.
Okay.
We won the Big East championship.
Nice.
Hands down, the best team experience
I'm
that
sure.
I have
Yeah.
ever been a part of. It's
Right.
kind of a pretty amazing story. If I could shed 30
Yeah, let's
seconds
hear
on
the
it.
story. That's what this is all about. Stories.
So our sophomore year, we were atrocious. We finished second to last out of the whole conference. I think there was 12 or 14 teams in it. I was planning on transferring out, and I committed to Montclair State,
Okay.
and believe it or not, I'm in the administrative office signing the paper during the summer. I get down to the signature. My coach walks in. He's like, "Henry, I want to talk to you." He takes me around, and he's like, I don't know why, but I'm feeling compelled to bring you back on to the team. I want you to be part of this and help grow this. And I think it was by God's divine grace that really kind of led him to that and made it clear in that moment that that's where I should go. And the next year is when we go on to win the Big East
You turned it around in
championship
a year?
in 1 year. Yeah. And it was
Wow.
all through leadership of actually the underclassmen, the sophomore class,
Okay.
really kind of took over that senior role.
Okay.
And
Which was
they
your class, or is that the class now behind you?
they were behind me. So I
So
was a
you
junior.
became a junior. Got it. Okay.
And so it's the final game of the regular season. Sorry, jump around a little bit, but final game of the regular season, I'm playing Georgetown.
Mm-hmm.
If we win, we're in the tournament. Top 8 teams go. If we lose, we're out. So it's the bottom of the ninth. There's 2 outs. We're down
Okay.
by 1 run,
Okay.
and ground ball to third baseman. You think that's it. Throwing error over the first baseman. Guy goes to second. Walk. Another walk, and then our catcher gets up, hits a liner in the gap, scores 2 runs, walk off. We hit 2 tiebreakers and go into the fifth seed, and then go into the tournament and go 4-0.
Wow.
and then win the
Right.
Big
So it
East
wasn't like you
tournament.
were the number one seed in the tournament.
No,
You
no,
were basically a, what do they call that? You're a wild card.
we were a wild card. We were
Yeah.
one out away, bottom of the ninth.
Wow.
And I think it goes back to a lot of it. It was just, I think what separated us when we got there was our level of appreciation. We were kids coming to Disneyland for the first time because none of us have gone. And all
Yeah.
these other schools, St. John's, all these other
It was a
schools have been
part of
there
their
every
culture.
year.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
So, we really just came together and was like, we're just gonna have fun and just
Yeah.
lay it all out there,
Play loose. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. But that's
So
what sports is about. As you get to those levels, I think that that's why you find a lot of successful people in sports are successful in business because, driving towards winning is hard to do and you got to stay focused. And, sometimes it's coaching. Sometimes it's the coach that says, hey, we got these new guys coming in. We're all going to get together. And, it's definitely the team. It's team sport, obviously. So I
right.
think that a lot of business is a team sport too.
Yeah,
At
there's a
some
lot of
level, if you want to get off
parallels.
the ground. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
There's absolutely a lot of parallels between quote unquote successful people, at least in the business world, entrepreneur world,
Definitely.
who were athletes. And a lot of it is they're just conditioned to fail. They
Right.
know
And
how
they're
to
driven.
respond.
Right.
They're very driven.
Yeah.
And they know, they set up a framework and they're disciplined to put in the time, the
Right. And
effort.
failure doesn't stop them because it didn't stop them in sports. That's just the way it is.
It's the way it is, and they're
Yeah.
comfortable in the uncomfortable. They know,
Good point.
how to deal in an emotional situation. The
Right.
same thing. I can relate pitching in a big game moment to preparing for a big sales meeting, and
Right.
when you're in that meeting, your head's going a million miles an hour. Emotionally,
Right.
what's on the line.
Is that where you were? You were a pitcher?
I was a pitcher.
Okay. Now, do you
I was a
think
pitcher.
that college sports, even more so than high school sports, prepared you for the kind of things you deal with now on a daily basis as an entrepreneur?
It did in many ways.
Okay.
Yes, it definitely did in many ways. It laid a set framework, and it gave me the confidence and belief. And if nothing else, one particular thing I remember right before I started my own company, I was like, man, if I could do that, I could do this type of
Right.
thing. And it was like
Yeah.
that justification, which is what allowed me to then accept
Right.
that, okay, I have nothing to lose here. Because and that if then statement was, I'm a bad runner. And every year for South Orange or for Seton Hall, there's South Mountain Reservation,
Yeah.
which is a 4-mile hike.
Yeah. Uphill seems like both ways.
Uphill both ways. And I was terrible, just a terrible, do 3 miles coming into school. And every year we had to do this. It's 9.5 miles. And it was very, very tough. And I was like, man, if I could physically get through that when I had all the doubt in the world, I think I can at least give this a shot.
Yeah.
And, start something.
I think a lot of this stuff is perspective, right? And a lot of it's consciousness. So if you've been through difficult things, challenges, right? That's the kind of the way we approach things. Like, well, if I got through that, how bad could this be? And a lot of people come from the standpoint of they haven't been through that before. So they're fearful.
Right.
They don't know what's on the other side of the wall. You're like, well, it doesn't matter what's on the other side of the wall because it couldn't be worse than what I went through here.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's, you
It's
get
that
a lot of military
conditioning.
guys like that too, who went through a lot of difficult things in the military and now they're driven and successful in business or whatever marketing they're doing. And because they're like, well, it can't be worse than somebody shooting a bullet at me.
Right.
Jeez. So
yeah, very true. It's very true how relative it is to that. It definitely helped mostly in my initial job out of college, which was going into sales and marketing.
Right.
And I was going door to door.
Yeah. That's a
signing,
good place to start, right?
Great spot.
Yeah.
Talk about being learning how to be comfortable in the uncomfortable.
Yeah. Deal with rejection, right?
All day long. And knowing how to, yes, pick yourself up. And it was kind of that belief in so many no's equally yes, which a lot of hitters, Babe Ruth's one of his favorite things is like, when I strike out, it's just, one at bat closer to my next home run. And that's
Right.
really, kind of the approach when it comes to marketing, sales, entrepreneurship.
Right.
If you're going out there trying to solicit yourself, your business, and, of course you're going to hear no's. But yeah, the baseball allowed me to be conditioned for that. And it was just a brush off the shoulder when I failed.
Yeah. No,
Um,
you're right. I mean, if you try and get everyone to say no, eventually someone's going to say yes, right? I mean, it's just the
yeah.
law of large numbers. And if you can get through that, yeah, I think it definitely builds character. And I find a lot of people, because I think in business, and you probably have had this experience already, you're going to fail. I mean, it's not a question of like you might fail if you take it, you're going to fail. It's
hmm
part of taking risks. And if you accept that as part of what you're doing, then maybe it's not as daunting when it happens, because it's not as a surprise like, oh, I failed, I tried, I can't do this. No, you were supposed to fail. I don't know what
hmm
you're going to fail at. It may be later on in your life, but I find that people that have had it good for them all along, and they've kept going, and then they get knocked down, and it's just too much for them to handle. It's just too much for them to handle.
Yeah,
So,
they don't know, they have
right, what to
nothing to
do.
pull from either. There is no experience, there is no perspective or understanding, or how to kind of built within their wireframe to be able to get through it.
Right.
So it's very true.
So what was
But
your
it's
first, that was good experience though, doing sales, getting involved with literally face-to-face, door-to-door sales to
mhm.
start with. So what was your first entrepreneurial adventure, or venture, I guess is the better word.
Sure. So it from the door to door, I got promoted to kind of the next step within that business, which was one call closing home remodeling products, and it was a 2.5, 3 hour scripted presentation.
Got it. Home
And these
remodeling.
guys,
Okay.
yeah, Power Home Remodeling, and they did a fantastic job of equipping the individual, and not only from a resource standpoint, it was a great company, but teaching you sales aptitude, and kind of the system and psychology behind all of it. And it got to a point where I stopped believing in what I was selling.
Right.
I knew the products that we have were thousands of dollars more than what some competitors were, and that affected my sales. But again, it equipped me with great experience. And as I had left that company, um, then that's when I got started doing digital stuff. So
Okay.
I started learning how to kind of survive on my own in that sense, and learning the importance of an online presence. It was 2014, so
Okay.
responsive technology, which is what all websites are built out on. So websites are mobile friendly.
Right.
Really just started to come into play, and mobile site usage was on the high incline.
Right.
If you
Yeah. Not
got
all
40
websites were mobile friendly in those days. Everybody just
exactly.
thinks it's like a given now, but it's not. It wasn't.
It wasn't.
Right.
No. Now it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So was it
But
on WordPress in those days, or WordPress really? That was like 5, 6 years ago. WordPress really didn't
there
exist at
was
that point.
WordPress. Yeah,
Oh, it
WordPress
was.
is the first one.
Oh, it
So
was
they were the
originally.
first one.
Okay.
Yep. And great platform, great solution. So essentially, I was able to take my sales experience, and tie that in with my new digital experience and bring that together. And that's what allowed me to then form New Wave Digital. And it was all off of the acceptance that if I could go in and sell a $25,000 roof to a homeowner in a one call close,
Right.
then I can sell a $3,000 website.
Right.
It was like it was really the difference in numbers,
Right. The
and
perspective
the
was like, how
value.
hard can? Yeah. Sure.
So it was. I'm extremely grateful for that, because prior to that, I didn't have digital experience. I didn't even know I was artistic, really, and that I was a designer of any sense. So I'm extremely grateful. I guess I got lucky for that,
Yeah.
and I tie my relationship in with God into that. Yes, I was an accidental entrepreneur, but I feel like it did have kind of a divine purpose and timing
Right.
behind
Well,
it.
you kind of accidentally found what you were good at and liked, right? And now a
Yeah.
lot of it was self-taught. Like you taught a lot of yourself in terms of the programming and all that type of stuff, or did you take courses? How did you do that? I mean,
No, I
you
taught
know,
myself. Yeah, it's a great question.
there
I
wasn't like
really
those tools like Wix and things like that where you can kind of do websites on your own 6 years ago, right? You really had to get somebody to do the work
Majority, yes. There was some out there, but they
a little
really
bit.
lacked the flexibility that they have out now. The
Yeah.
ease wasn't as much. It was kind of just coming in.
Right.
Um, but Wix did not have as much mind share as it does now.
Right.
And their whole MO is now really soliciting to business owners like, hey, if you can, save a Word document, you can build a website. So, I was self-taught, and
Okay.
I did know that there was definitely areas within web dev that I was never going to be an expert.
Right.
I was good on the client side. I was good at selling. I was good at prospecting and finding leads and bringing in the business, as well as designing. But I was not a developer. There's two sides to
Right.
web development.
Yeah,
There's
you could
back end,
design it and say this is what it's going to look like, but the back end is a lot of programming that you need to know. And some
a
people can
lot
do
of.
both, but a lot of
Mhm.
times they can't.
Yes.
Right.
So I'm grateful I was able to recognize that pretty early, and that kind of allowed me to know where to delegate in that sense, and knew what the PB&J situation for the operations side of my business was going to be. And
Right.
as that's kind of evolved, I still absolutely have my hand in the designing, but now I spend more time working on my business rather than in my
Right.
business.
Right. Well, that's what entrepreneurs do or should do at least.
Yes,
Right.
and I'm now learning, the really the importance of that, and
Yeah.
I felt like for a while I couldn't let it go because I couldn't turn it over in confidence to somebody that I knew was going to, turn it around, execute it, get it done in timely manner, and
Right.
have it look and function that the same way that if I were to do it.
Right. Well,
Um,
that's a training issue. I mean, it's certainly a trust issue, right? And but it's also a training issue. You training your people to do what your vision is and what you want to do for the customer. But I think that your point is very well taken that you need to the ones that are going to be successful, right? Because you don't want to be doing programming now. It's not a good use of your time, right? So you're figuring out a way at this point in your career, I'm going backwards, right? 2014
mhm.
to recognizing that, hey, as an entrepreneur, yeah, sure, I want to run everything in my business too, but is that the best, way to run my business, or should I have people that I can train and teach so I can work on the business, work on the business development, work on the strategy of how do I grow this business? And you already spoke to me. This is just one business. You've gone into other businesses we'll get into to become an entrepreneur, meaning you're the guy who runs the business. You're the guy who sits over
Mhm.
the top. You're the guy who strategizes and grows and then starts another business because you put the right people in place that give you the confidence to do that. But a lot of people, they might even have the right people, but they won't give up control. They just did this thing in
Right.
their head that they have to, by the way, and I say this to everybody, if you are anybody listening, if you're doing everything in your business, then you're just an employee of a company you also happen to own. You're not really an entrepreneur.
Right.
I hate to be blunt about it, but I think that that's like you said, there's a big difference in working on your business and working in your business.
Mhm.
So tell me how'd you get past that? You know,
It was through, man, that's a great question. Through failure in a way,
okay,
I knew the business was not really scaling in the way that I was hoping for.
right,
And it got to a point where I kind of sat back, got to the whiteboard and was like, well, what if 10 clients sign up tomorrow? Are we in
right.
position
How
to
can you
to
do
operate?
that, right?
And the answer was no,
Right,
and it was like, so okay, if that's the ideal case, bringing on 10 clients, let's say within the next 15 days,
right,
how can I position this business so that operationally it can still function and execute and hit every timeline, and not lose out, any
right. Customer
important
service,
aspect.
the quality, the whole thing, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
So it was once I kind of sat back and looked at it with that perspective that allowed me to, okay, I need to focus here and not so much here. And even though, yes, I'm still going to wear a lot of hats.
Yeah.
I'm still going to oversee, the operations and make sure
Yeah,
I'm kind of
touch
the
things.
final
Oversee is
line.
a good word. Yeah, oversee is a good word. But
Yeah.
so do you remember in your mind like how you came to that? Because basically what you're saying is, okay, I'm a shoemaker, right? And
Hmm.
I can have 4 or 5 pairs of shoes on the shelf. But if I got 100 pairs of shoes on the shelf, I got a problem. I can't do that work myself.
Yeah.
So what do you remember? Like what caused you to come to that revelation? Like you need to, like what made you go to the whiteboard and whiteboard it out? Do you remember? Maybe you don't
Yeah,
remember,
sure.
but
It is actually very recent too. So this is all new.
okay.
It's
So it's a
not,
good
and
timing.
I'm only 30, so it's,
Yeah.
and the business is 5 years old, so it's
Right.
not, I
So
can
it's
only go
good
back so
timing to
far.
talk, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was really nothing that I kind of self manifested. To be honest, it was my developer, who's also, well, it was my developer who I used him as a back end guy, and
Okay.
things started getting piling up, and I gave him more roles within the design, and
So he was the
I
programmer, and now you're moving him over to design a little bit.
yes,
Okay.
and it was the first time too. He kind of like, man, I love this. Like he actually expressed, this is, I really enjoy this type of work.
Right.
Speaking to the design,
Yeah.
and he started to really step it up in that regard, and it gave me that confidence. Like, okay, I can let go because I know he's going to be able to turn it around. So
Okay.
it was really that one individual, who kind of, uh, like I said, stepped up and impressed me, and that because of that, I have more confidence that, okay, if I know who to get when I have to get another one,
Right.
what to look for, and how to equip them and teach them, but to point, it was, I give him more the credit than anything.
Well, but you chose him. I mean, maybe a lot of it was luck and happenstance with him working on design or whatever, but you chose the right guy, I guess, whether you did it
Yeah.
intentionally or not.
Yeah.
You
No,
know,
he's been great. And, it's having a full-time, employee who really just gets it is, um, that's really how you build and frame a business.
Yep.
So
Yeah, the people are important, and the people that you trust are important, and the people that allow you to take a breath and kind of look at the overall vision of the business as opposed to worrying
right,
about all the fires that are going on all day.
exactly.
Yeah. So how long
So
ago was this? Was that whole experience where you said, okay, well, what if we got 15 clients in the next 15 days? How long
mm,
ago was that? Do you remember?
probably about 3 months.
So it was recent.
It was pretty recent. It was
Okay.
pretty recent.
So you're
Yeah.
really in
And
the early throes of really growing your business to the next level
it
from an operational standpoint, I mean.
from an operational standpoint, and I guess this might be a good segue into some of the other businesses,
Yeah, definitely.
because as those started to grow, and just being an entrepreneur and having 4 ideas for new businesses
Right.
every 2 weeks, and I can't seem to turn that off, and that's
Yeah.
definitely
Yeah,
an
you have
issue
that
where
mindset, right? You're thinking of things, you see things, it makes you trigger other things, right? You're writing notes in the middle of the night, things like that.
all the time,
Yeah, I do that
like
too.
different ideas and bouncing stuff off.
Yeah.
Like, hey, what do you think of this? And it's kind of like, my girlfriend's like, what now?
Right.
As those grew, and so did the other businesses start to grow. I was like, hey, I have to figure this out on
Right.
on the new wave side, or else it's not going to fall apart. But logistically, it can become a disaster pretty quickly.
Right.
So one is Poochie Butter, which is, it started as a dog peanut butter.
Right.
My dog Bear, who was he was diagnosed with an illness, and we had to give him pills.
Yeah.
And my grandfather was giving him like the Skippies out of the cabinet, and I was like, hey
Right.
man,
Can't be
this
good
this
things in there for a dog. Yeah.
no, it's
Not when it
loaded
stays
with
on the shelf for 50 years and it's still the same peanut butter it was 50 years ago, That can't be good, right?
Exactly. It's not good for humans either.
Yeah, of course, Yeah, there's something wrong with
Um,
a Twinkie that lasts for 50 years. Shouldn't be
yeah, there's
eating
been
it.
some wild case studies on that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but that's good. So you're basically looking for holistic, clean eating for your dog, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the goal. And, I knew I wasn't a baker, I wasn't a cook, but I was able to take my digital marketing experience. I was selling some products on Amazon at the time, did
Okay.
some keyword research, competition research. So kind of, had that framework set out of, okay, well, this is going to be the base funnel. If it's going to work, I have no idea. But it seems like it could if I could just get a product in this position and
Right.
utilize the power of Amazon, that we could start to generate some sales. But I wanted first, before that, to really make sure we had the healthiest peanut butter on the market for dogs. That was
Right.
goal one.
Right. Are there a lot of
And
peanut butter for dogs? I mean, I bought your peanut butter, but I didn't do a lot of research on other dog peanut butters.
we definitely weren't the first,
Okay.
but I kind of laugh at some of there's one other one that I do give her, a lot of kudos in, I know she spent time in a recipe, and it is, a healthy focused solution.
Right.
Some of the other ones I would laugh at because it was kind of, a human peanut butter with a dog label around it.
Right. Yeah.
So I was like, that's not a dog peanut,
No, right.
so
Exactly. Can't be
I
peanut butter that
wanted.
we're going to eat. You put it in another jar. It says,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So my goal was really to create something, that separated us from the competition in
Right.
that stance.
Now,
So
now I want to point out something because I think it's important for people listening. And that's the difference between, like, you have an entrepreneurial mindset, right? So you look at something and you're like, not only do I want to do this, but is there an opportunity here and whatever. Some people just make peanut butter in their kitchen for their dog. Like, that's it.
right,
They would never, they'd be like, what? And somebody would say, you ought to make a business out of this. And they'd be like, well, why would I do that? Like, it wouldn't occur to them. Instead, you're like, well, what else is out there? You're doing the market research and you're like, I don't want to make peanut butter for my dog. I want to make peanut butter for dogs that help more than one dog and maybe can make a profit out of it and whatever. So there's definitely, and I see this all the time, a difference between somebody who's just a chef in their kitchen and somebody
right,
who's really going to write cookbooks and do videos and be driven to, my wife's a very good cook. You could throw her in her kitchen. She could come to your house and you could lay out all the ingredients you have and she would make you a 4-course meal. I mean, she's just
wow,
very good at that. She's interested
sure,
in it. She knows how things go together. And I've been trying to drive her to do. She's not interested in doing videos and writing a cookbook, and it's just not in her blood.
right,
But she will cook. I mean, we could be in the woods with stuff, and she would make a meal that you'd be like, how did you think of doing? It's just something in her. She's
right.
interested in it, but she's not an entrepreneur. I mean, she doesn't want to do that, but it's interesting because you didn't have to do that. You could have just made the peanut butter for your dog and take care of your dog, right?
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
I always look back, coming into situations of relationships with people very similar to your wife, where they clearly have a skill set, and it's hard for me to put myself in their shoes sometimes. So it's like,
Right.
well, why don't you
I
do
have
it?
the
It's
same
like,
problem. Yeah.
don't you see what you could do
Right.
here?
I
And
know.
it's kind of like, well, not everyone has that entrepreneurial drive.
No,
It's
they're not
within you or
driven.
it's
Yeah.
not.
Even my kids, I see them do things. I'm like, you should do videos about that. And, you get a following and people will see, I don't know, Dad. They'd rather put up their
Yeah,
Instagram and chats and Snapchat and with their
sure.
friends. And that's fine. I guess, the whole world can't be all entrepreneurs, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
definitely more celebrated now than it ever
Oh, for
has been, I
sure. I
think.
think in some respects, the word entrepreneur is way overused. I mean, if somebody is a business owner, they open a retail store, they started an online, that doesn't make them an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
An entrepreneur is somebody who sees opportunities and continues to see opportunities of everything that they look at to that could be a business, not a business. They're evaluating ideas, and maybe they end up to be a consultant. They help people start, but I don't know what they do, but they work within that space as opposed to just turning on the lights every day at a store. That doesn't make
Right.
them an entrepreneur, in my opinion.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, crafting and strategizing and making, the classic making lemonade with lemons,
Yeah.
type of thing. Um, my gift through experience has been understanding that through a digital world,
Right.
understanding the path of a user, what a user wants from this experience, what's the path that they should take to get them to, a conversion or a sale. How are they going to relate with this brand? And kind of tapping into the psyche of a user too really helps an entrepreneur, because that's your demographic. That's who you're trying to sell to.
Huge.
So what do they want from this experience? Because I feel like, it's human nature just to rely on your own understanding and be like, all right, well, this is what I want it to be, and this
Right.
is how I'm going to do it. And that arrogance can drive a business right into the ground. And you see it all the time, on reality TV shows, or just,
No,
people
because
that you,
99% of the time you're wrong.
right. Right.
You got to do the market. Look, the two most important part of a business plan, whatever plan people put together, are the marketing side and the finance side, right? You have to know how much it costs you, and if can you really make a profit doing this, and all your numbers, which Jack, for example, is very good at, and the marketing side of it. And if you're the person, like, I think your digital background it really paved the way for you to be able to analyze business ideas and research them. And okay, well, how are we going to, like, how many people I deal with, they don't even know what the word funnel means. Forget a digital funnel. I mean, there's funnels that existed before the internet, but they don't even understand the concept of bringing people into your world, working them down through the process, and then popping out a sale, whatever.
A sale, yeah.
And if you know the concept of doing it, and then you know the way to do it online, it makes new ideas much easier to execute.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's where, gratefully, I still am able to extend that as a consultant. And I kind of see myself maybe playing into that more.
Yeah.
How's your business work? All right. Who are you trying to sell to? What are they doing?
Right.
And just putting together an effective funnel for them, because it shapes out so differently for everybody. But I feel like a lot of agencies like mine, they kind of just, they're always trying to put a circle into a square, because it's where they monetize. So, I've come across a lot of social media companies and stuff like that. And it's like, I sit back, is that really the best strategy for this particular client? Like,
right.
So it's interesting. And I can see how it's so overwhelming too. There's just so much. It's like, oh, okay, well, I got to post 3 times a day. I got to do this. I got to do that.
Right.
I got to do that.
I get everybody you talk to. It's crazy. I can't post the many times that people tell me to post. I go out of business. And I post a lot. I post a couple times a week. And
you do the podcast. So, I mean, that in and of itself.
Yeah, exactly. That's once a week. So
creating content.
And if you do too much, people start unsubscribing from your list. People that I know, I call them up. Henry, I saw you unsubscribe to my list. Well, I just get too many emails. I got, people get overwhelmed. They're just unsubscribe.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. And that's one of the things with Corona, that I've been able to sit back and be like, I've just been going, we too have just been going way too fast. And technology, as beautiful as it is, and everything that allows and equips us, there's a reason why I think this is like the age of anxiety, is because we're constantly getting slapped in the face with buy this, look at this, engage with this. And it just never ends, regardless if it's social media or email or, Zoom calls or whatever. Like, you can't turn it off, it seems like. And I'm victim of that. Like, I'm looking at my emails at 8:00. Okay, I got to get this out now. And it's just like, whoa,
I know. I try and put it down for the weekend, but now, like you said, with Corona, it's all like the only way we communicate with people. So you're checking your Facebook, your LinkedIn, your emails, you're Zooming with people, it never stops. And you're right. I think when we go back to some normalcy, people have to like find a balance as to when they can. That's why I got to get back to the gym, so they can get off of social media, just put it down for an hour. It's just make it crazy.
It will make it crazy. And there's no way, at least for me, I feel like I have a bad short-term memory, because I'm just constantly getting flashbulbs of content all throughout the day. And it's like, at the end of the day, I look back, I'm like, wait, what was that? I can't even remember.
It's not, you don't have a bad short-term memory. You got things pushing out all the other things every 2 minutes.
Right.
I was talking to somebody the other day. I forget what came. I can't even remember what I spoke to him about, but they brought up some issue, and I go, oh my God, I was talking to somebody else about this, and I got to figure out, maybe it was you. I don't know who I was talking to, and I still can't figure out who I had this conversation with about the same topic. And the person that I first spoke to could help me with the second person. I can't make the connection.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
I'm looking through stuff. I don't know. I'll figure it out and pop up in the middle of the night or something. But yeah, you're right. It's our short-term memories are totally overworked now. Totally overworked.
Mm-hmm.
They
are.
Yeah. So
and it doesn't help, just sitting crunched over, because I'm kind of a health. I hold that very near. I used to be overweight, and this is going back a little bit.
Yeah,
but
you look thin. That was after baseball.
high school.
Okay.
But once I graduated college, and now I do it mostly just for, yes, longevity and just making sure from a physique point, yes, but performance as well.
Right.
Like I can't eat a massive cheeseburger at lunch and expect to perform well the rest of the day. It's just not going
Right.
to
Of
happen.
course not. Right. Yeah.
But I think having a poor diet and sitting all day, and that's the other thing I
The
found
worst.
with the technology is like, man, get like bad posture, it's just
Yep.
like bad energy, and your blood doesn't circulate because you're cutting off air and blood circulation at your
Waste, right?
hip flexors,
Yeah.
right?
You're
Um,
folded up, basically, right?
you're folded up, and behind your shoulders has more nerves than anywhere else. So you get you get headaches, your shoulders hurt and achy, and it's just like, but we're strapped to these things. It's
Yeah.
like we're literally
I definitely
strapped.
get up and walk around. I want to go back to, I get more meetings now with Zoom. I go from you, I go from another one, another. I got to run out and do a will actually in the rain at 1:00. But
Mm,
normally I'm here, I do 6, 7 meetings, which is great. It's not efficient.
sure.
I can do podcast, but you're right. My joints are hurting me. And I think there was something to be said to go down, get in your car, drive, have coffee with somebody, drive back.
Right.
Like it's a good human exercise, even though it takes time.
Yeah.
It's healthier to get out and to do things. I don't know about you and your girlfriend, but my wife and I have been trying to go on walks every day and get the
Yeah.
kids out and, they're exercising, trying to ride their bikes, and it's craziness, but I'm sure there's people that just sit here all day. It's like,
Sit,
sometimes I feel
yeah,
that way.
on a couch and what have it. But
Binge
the
watch.
ones I feel most, are really the youth. Like the
Right.
kids that they have to during these times of hours. And then when you add a cell phone into the mix, and it's like, well, how much
Yeah.
time are you really spending outdoors? But anyway,
Well,
not to go down
we
a
got
rabbit
way
hole.
off
Yeah.
tangent, but it's all good stuff. So let's get back. So the second business was the dog business
Yes.
because of your dog. Your dog needed clean eating.
Yeah, it got started. Yep, exactly. So I was able to kind of bring together, the fact that most dogs love peanut butter,
Right.
and that
It's
that
also
moment
fun to
with my
watch your dog eat peanut butter, by the way,
yes
because it gets
on the
stuck to
roof
the
of their
roof of
mouth.
their mouth. I
Yeah,
hate to say that, but it is funny. It's cute.
it is. It
Yeah.
is cute. They enjoy it.
By the way, also, if people are listening, they definitely should go to your website. All those dog videos where you dub over the
The
dogs
voiceovers.
is hysterical. Yeah, they're great.
Yes, I'm glad you watched it. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
they're
fun,
very
right?
funny. Yeah, they're very
Oh
funny. So if
man,
anybody's listening, you go to Henry's website. What's it? PoochieButter.com? Is that?
yes.
Yeah. Poochie, Poochie
Mhm.
butter.com. And there's videos on there that have dubbed over voiceovers of dog videos where they're doing funny things. They're talking to each other. It's like the NFL ones where they dub the things that are going on in the sports ones, but this is with puppies and dogs. It's very funny.
Yes.
Yeah.
So would love to
Again, a creative marketing idea,
creative
right?
marketing is all about
Yeah.
building brand awareness and engagement. It
Yeah.
really our approach was, I think, season one. You might have saw season one, but there's the more we got through it, we started incorporating
Yeah.
more brand stuff. So it's
Yeah.
kind of a happy medium between just random
Right.
organic, cute, funny dog and, oh, it's Pooch Butter related. So we did stuff with like Halloween, like giving out peanut butter,
Right.
but
When
yeah,
people can share those, right, and put them on social media and all that stuff.
exactly.
Yeah. Good.
Statistically, humor is the number one most shareable content.
Oh,
So
yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
so yeah, I would love to continue just growing those out. It's marketing is very expensive, and in manufacturing business, it gets swallowed up very fastly going into R&D,
Right.
as well as purchase orders. And our goal right now, my goal is to continually build out the peanut butter portfolio, not just have one peanut butter. So we created the toy, which is like a vertical for the dog to consume the peanut butter. Same thing with a lick pad, kind of suction it to the bathtub or the
Right.
floor
So
or
there's
whatever.
accessories, let's call them peanut butter
Yeah,
accessories.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then we have a food topper. So, right now where we're at.
Oh, I got something for you. I saw this video of a woman who needs to clip the nails of her dog, right?
Right.
So in order to get the dog to stay still, what she did was she took, and you could make something, I think, which would be better. She took like saran wrap or something on her head, okay,
Oh
and then
gosh.
put peanut butter on her forehead. and then bent down for the dog to work on the nails, and the dog's licking the peanut butter and didn't pull his paws away or anything.
Get out.
Yeah, so if you had a device where people could strap to their head like a light, but where they could put the peanut butter on,
Yeah. A little
brilliant.
dome
The
with
dog stayed still. It didn't. He was
That's
too busy
amazing.
licking the peanut butter. Didn't care that his nails were being cut.
That's
Brilliant
amazing.
idea.
I'm gonna have to look into it. Yeah,
definitely.
that's definitely those types of little quirky little
Inventors.
production.
Yeah.
Yes. From a cost too standpoint and a liability as well, I would love to continue the brand into toy products that are innovative.
Yeah.
Like that. With food, there's a lot more. You got shelf life. You have so many. It's much more regulated. There's also licensing for pets that gets very expensive. So
yeah.
That's been the goal of we have a laundry list of ideas, but it just gets very expensive. So right now we're putting up a business strategy to seek to get some investment.
Okay.
So we're grateful for some connections we have. Jack has obviously been very helpful as well there. I know he has a lot of experience.
Do you have like a pitch deck and a little bit of a business plan? And
that's what we're working with.
Okay.
Working to put together right now.
Okay, so there's a guy I'm going to introduce you to. His name is Zach Levin. Zach and his partner Nick have something called Pitch Tape. Pitch Tape is a website. You can look it up. It is a platform for entrepreneurs that want to pitch their ideas to angel investors and other investors and VCs on the, who are just getting started. So when you get to that point, I'll hook you up with him and you could talk to Zach about, because that's what they were attorneys in the M&A space, and they went out on their own, left their big firm, and that's one of the things that they've been doing. I met them through a tech startup meetup type of group.
Right.
Not through Jack, through someone else, but
sure.
Yeah, definitely can connect you. So you're looking to basically build a pet company to a certain extent with product lines, but like a company with a conscience, like a company that's doing things that are good for pets.
Absolutely. Yeah, I put that at the forefront. We donate 10% of our monthly proceeds back to animal shelters and stuff, but the integrity of the products has to be
right.
At the forefront. I don't want to kind of sell out, in that regard to make a profit on so.
Yeah, there's definitely a space for that. I mean, there's a lot of pet owners that want to do things that are conscious, that are, better for their dogs, cleaner eating. I mean, we used to give my dog Alpo when I was young. It was disgusting. Stuff in a can is ugh. Now maybe Alpo's better now. I don't know. But then it was just like whatever they could grind up and squeeze into a can. It's like it's a dog. Like nobody cared. So
yeah, millennial dog moms are those are the ones. That's our demographic right there.
Yeah, of course.
Because they're very willing to spend the extra money to make sure that they're giving their dog. My girlfriend subscribes for multivitamins, like $80 a month for the two dogs.
You're kidding.
Yep.
That's funny.
I'm not kidding. Yeah.
That's funny.
It's millennial dog moms. So
yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, one of the things I wanted to actually ask you, Mitch, was with everything going on, what is your goal, not only with the podcast, yes, but what is your plan for once all this kind of passes? I'm sure with courts being shut down, it's very tough to be in law right now.
Right. Most of my business is transactional, which the courts haven't affected, but the economy has affected. So a lot of my business owners are closed. Some not by choice, some just by lack of business. I've done some estate planning, but signing and executing documents is still difficult. They allowed for online notarization, but not of wills. So I'm going today. This is for my cousin, but I'm going today to help them sign their wills. I got to do it in their garage, and then the witnesses are standing over here, and then I'll come back and sign this, and I'll back away, and then it's like signing it for social distancing.
Yeah.
So that's been difficult, but my goal is, and the pandemic has helped in regard to I probably have tripled my network that I had before, just because I'm connecting with people all over the place. So I have my practice is a local practice, and it's a national practice. So the wills, the trusts, the local business documents, I do mostly in New Jersey with small business owners and startups and professionals and executives and things like that. So I still work with a lot of financial advisors, but on a national scale, I work with a few other law firms that are actually, I think they're both in California, but that we do things on from a national standpoint, meaning like we create advanced tax plans for people who have high income, who are looking to shelter income, shelter capital gains,
Mm,
do charitable things like that, that we'll do across the country from a federal standpoint. And then the local council handles, if there are any issues on the local level. If you're in Illinois, for example, you got to get your local council involved. You work with us on a national basis, and we'll work with your CPA too to put these strategies
gotcha.
in place. So I'm hoping that I get that going, because I was working on that before this whole thing happened. And I still talk to the people in California that I'm now affiliated with, and I've been doing a lot of that stuff. So, I keep doing that. The podcast is really just talking to people like you to, share their
Network
stories
too.
and
Yeah.
network. Yeah. And it does get me in front of local business people who I couldn't
Mm,
approach for other reasons. And I'm helping them, expose their business to other people while they're also sharing their ideas. And, I do a lot of, I wouldn't call it coaching, but business advising small business owners from a legal standpoint. So almost like their
sure.
outside general counsel, which, like your small company, you wouldn't hire your own general counsel. That's ridiculous. But you could have a guy on retainer for a couple $100 a month, and then if you needed him, you paid him hourly, you get a discount. So I do a fair amount of that, and I'm looking to do more of that. So I have
Mm,
steadier income, and is helpful, because sometimes a business owner brings me in when the problems happened. So then I
right.
got to fix everything, as opposed
Yeah.
to if I did it from the beginning, they wouldn't have the problems that.
Preventing it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people. I was just talking to somebody before this. A lot of people do things on a handshake. They bring someone in, or they hire a vendor or whatever, and they're all friends and everything's great. And then they come to me, they go, "Oh, the guy's not paying me, so you got to send him a legal letter." I said, "Well, show me the paperwork so I can see
Right.
like what your agreement was." Well, we don't have an agreement, but I got emails and I got text messages. Well, that's great, but you also have people that are going to say, "Well, what about that conversation we had a month and a half
Mm,
ago where you told me this? I didn't tell you that. I don't remember." Memories are very fallible. People do not remember things, even well intended. You and I will talk 6 months from now. We'll both remember this conversation completely different than,
sure.
and it's just the way your mind works. So if you don't put things in writing, it's just a recipe for disaster. So I'd like to be brought in with people before that happens, and I can
Yeah.
get them set up properly to make sure that all the bells and whistles are in place. So me as an attorney can handle problems later on much easier and much more effective, both from a cost standpoint and a result standpoint, as opposed to if they brought me in later on and said, "Oops, we got a problem. Can you help us?" Because that's like the way medicine's practiced. That's the way law is practiced. They bring you in to fix a problem, and it's much more costly. And sometimes you can't fix it, by the way. It's just,
Sure. It was kind of like what when I used to sell home remodeling products, the urgency factor there was, listen,
yeah.
you don't want to wait until you get a leak in your roof,
Yeah.
because it's going to be twice as more expensive, because not only do you have to then replace the roof, but you have to replace all the damage that was already done. So
Right.
it kind of ties into that. It makes so much sense. Cleaning up the mess is always, more
Always.
expensive
And you may
than.
not be available. They may have
Right.
to hire some other local schlock company because they're the only people that are available to do. You're out 6 weeks with crews that are dealing with X, Y, and Z, and then they got an emergency.
Right.
And then it gets screwed up. Then they got to bring you back in to fix it, and they've spent more money,
Yeah.
you know? So that's interesting. You got any other like things that you can tell me on the mic that you don't need an NDA for, that are things you're working on? Or I mean, off the
Um,
mic we can say whatever we want, but
right. And you tell me, I had two things prepared. One, I think is going to be an off the mic, but it's
Okay.
revolving around my company, Total Arm Care, which is it's a baseball business, baseball service business.
And you were a
We provide.
pitcher, right?
I was a pitcher, yeah.
Yeah.
So it started as, this is my gift back to the game.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen a good local response, and grateful for what it has grown to become. My partner Tom has really just taken over, and I've taken kind of a backseat on the services side. But
Okay.
what has happened recently, and this is where we're going to need someone of your services to come in, is that we found these products. So
Mm-hmm.
in arm care, there's a lot of activation and recovery products for
Sure.
pitchers and baseball
Right.
players, like weighted balls, resistance bands, stuff like that.
Right.
So we started selling them online, have seen some good steady growth, and that has kind of paved way for my role within the business. But we're now having that conversation. Well, okay, we see a separation within the brand, services and products.
Okay.
You spend the time over there and I spend the time over here. So it's kind of like, how do we formalize this? Because right now it is a handshake situation. We are friends,
Right.
and there's another partner involved.
Yeah.
But we need to formalize this, and we need to come up with some sort of equity distribution that makes sense and is fair for all, that doesn't break a kink in the chain. So,
right.
Anyway, that I did want to mention that because, it is going to allude to a separate conversation, but
Yeah, sure. Well, we need to put together an operating agreement that addresses all those issues. Who does what? What's your role? What is your share of equity? How does that work? And with an LLC, it's an LLC?
Yeah.
So the rules are very flexible. So you can basically set the rules any way you want.
Right.
But you're right. You got to do that ahead of time. Then things take off and people think this and you thought this. And wait a second, what about what you said here? And you go, what are you talking about? It becomes problematic.
It becomes a little dicey.
That. But that's another example of something that you had an experience with. And you turned, because you're the entrepreneur guy, and you're like, well, we can make money helping people doing this,
Exactly.
Yeah. So these are people that either had an injury they're recovering from or had surgery they're recovering from, right? And they still need to do stuff beyond PT or no?
Nope. So this is player development. So,
okay.
It all got started because I don't know if you've ever taken your kid to, the local baseball academy for like a pitching lesson. So
no, my kid's a science and math kid.
Okay, good. Saving you a ton of money.
We tried when he was young. It didn't.
Yeah.
Like many parents didn't get past Little League.
Yeah. Well, like I said, you're it's very expensive. But what happens here is they'll come into and this is majority of all baseball academies. So this is what I did. So it allowed me to kind of see the fault in it, and it was from an injury where it's a half-hour lesson. So you come in. And within 30 minutes, you're going from 0 to 60. So within that time frame, you don't have enough time to properly activate the body, which should take 15 to 20 minutes going through all of the stuff, just like going to the gym. You're not going to jump on the squat rack,
right?
445s.
No, you'll hurt yourself, right? You got to warm up, stretch, the whole thing.
You got to do it. And it's the same approach, but all of these academies, they see it as a business and they just, it becomes a churning meal. And it's unfortunate because it's not a benefit to the kid. So we created an hour and a half long group session, which has the adequate amount of time for activation, throwing progression. In these lessons, they would be throwing 4 balls and then they're at max effort. It's terrible for them. So proper throwing progression and arm strength throwing program, and then having enough time at the end for rehabilitation, because overhead throwing, is not a natural motion. It's bad for your body. So spending the time to pretty much reverse all the damage that you just did is going to prevent injury in the long term and allow you to really see, lasting results. So that's what it became as, when my initial vision, because I was going through these 30-minute things, I was like, why do I feel like crap afterwards?
Right. So was this a curriculum, something you sell to people, something you sell to academies, something you run yourself?
So we started it renting space from an academy.
Okay.
And actually, they're the third partner in the business because they, I don't want to speak for them, but they kind of saw us as a threat where we were just renting out the space, but they were running lessons. So they saw, Total Arm Care as this elite pitching performance on steroids option, or, a 30-minute lesson.
So it was like competition almost.
We became competitors. So they came in on an equity basis and became partners in the LLC. So that's where we're at now.
But they're like-minded, like they get it in terms of what you're trying to do. They get it,
and they're super cool. Yeah. And it made sense. Like when they laid it out, I was like, yep, I get it. It's like I would do the same thing if I were in your shoes.
Well, it's an opportunity for them to differentiate themselves versus other academies, right?
100%.
Yeah. Sure.
So we can bring people in, and we also, train their players. They run travel teams and stuff like that. So it's really become a really good relationship. My long-term goal there is to essentially go to other facilities and do the exact same thing,
Right.
where their pitching might be okay,
Right.
where our service and plan can come in. You own part of the
Like a joint
LLC out
venture
of
type of thing, or a licensing agreement or something.
a
Yeah, we could separate
licensing.
that from a legal standpoint. There's good ways to do it, better ways to do
Yeah.
it than franchising, stuff like that.
Yeah, so it's kind of like a franchise, right? There's probably
Right.
better terms and formalities there.
Yeah.
So that's the way that I kind of vision it on that side. So
Yeah,
we'll
sure.
we'll
That,
see, but yeah, that's all part of a separate conversation for sure.
okay. And is there
Um,
another idea that you can bring up, or that one you really can't talk about?
yes, I can, and I guess we're coming up on an hour or a little over, so
Well,
I
as long
guess
as
we
you're
could.
okay, I'm good.
I'm good.
Yeah. I got to be in the road by
Is
12:30, so I don't want to talk that long, but I'm
Oh,
plenty of
okay.
time.
Well, yeah, we'll wrap it up by then for sure. But was ADA compliance. So I don't know,
Okay.
as a lawyer, how much hands-on experience you have within this, but this is going back to my New Wave business, and something I've been considering putting together a subsidiary to New Wave, focusing specifically on ADA compliance. It's something that is really starting to come to the surface and becoming more and more regulated and mandatory for small to medium-sized businesses. Essentially, what it is someone who is visually or has any real disability to some regards has to come onto your website and has to be able to execute the same exact transaction as someone who's just a quote unquote normal user.
Right.
So what a lot of these businesses are finding is someone who has a disability cannot execute or perform their desired action on the site, and they either go to the ADA or they go to a lawyer, and that business gets a note from the lawyer, and they are on average filing out of court for about $30,000.
Right.
So the solution to this, yes,
So it's almost like in the workplace where you have certain building requirements and certain local zoning laws that say your business has to be accessible to people with disabilities. So you're saying that in the digital space now, some of the ADA rules are bleeding over into a digital space, that your website has to have certain certain components that allow somebody with a disability, hearing, seeing, whatever, impaired, to be able to use your services.
Yes, that's
Okay.
100% it. And it's funny you say accessibility, because that's really the coin term, web accessibility,
Right.
and creating that platform. And by law, as is, every website has to be compliant. So if you think of that, I, as a web developer, just heard of this a month ago.
Right.
And I'm the one providing now the solution. But as a small, medium-sized business, a lot of people just don't know about it because it really hasn't been as regulated, or I don't want to say marketed, but
Talked
they
about.
just talked about. Yeah,
Yeah.
they just don't know. So the backside of that is the law, and that's kind of the urgency sell against. It's like, okay, well, this might cost you, I'm throwing numbers out there. It all depends on the number of pages the
Right.
website has, but $5,000 a year versus, getting a lawsuit that could average to be 30,000. So that's kind of what we're formulating now. But my question was, have you ever dealt with ADA compliance? Or are there a specific sector? Is it,
I could do some
um,
research. I have never dealt with ADA compliance in this area with
hmm,
websites. I mean, are there plugins that allow you to do? I know there's accessibility features to like Windows and to, Apple computers, things like that. But
hmm.
are there, like, if you're building a website on, I guess WordPress is probably the best example, right? Are there plugins that you can use to add accessibility features to a website? Or you
There's a software.
okay?
There's a couple softwares, but the software will cover about 70 to 80% of the 100. So there
Okay.
is still a part of a manual process, not only from embedding the code into the actual website, QA testing it, going through it all, but there's certain elements that the software just doesn't cover.
Right.
So that's essentially the base process. And it really depends on how big the website is. But interestingly enough, when someone who may not be able to see, there's commands on the keyboard that let them navigate through the website. And there's a software called Audio Eye. Essentially, it will speak what the tag is on either that page or that image or whatever it might be. So that's
Okay.
if they go through that process and there's no tag associated with the image, that audio won't come back and they can't navigate through it. But yeah, it's mostly utilizing a software. But again, there's still a manual process involved.
Yeah. So maybe what we should do is we should research at what level ADA compliance applies. You and I start an online business and we got no money. We're just getting going and we build a Wix site for free because we don't have any money to pay your organization.
Right.
What compliance requirements do we have? I'd be curious to see what triggers the requirements,
Yeah, that's a great question. And, it's something I have been bogging back in my mind to just come up with a basic how-to, because there are certain things that you could do to your own website to make sure that it is compliant, and it is a thorough manual process that will take quite a bit of time.
Right.
Again, depending on how many pages that you have there, but
Made a note to look into it.
yeah,
No, I
it's
think
interesting
what it
stuff,
really
but
lends itself to like a free ebook download that gives you the basics of how to get started, and then says, listen, if as you grow, you need to get a compliance team on board, or you need to put certain things in place to make sure that you're not, and maybe insurance has to be changed. I don't know, but
right.
it's definitely an opportunity to be a bit of a funnel for business to the digital marketing company,
Sure. Yeah. Well said.
Actually, I have a
It's the
good
end.
friend who also knows Jack, who's a PR guy. He writes books he's working on a book with me right now about protecting yourself from getting sued, but he's very good with collaborating on books and things like that. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, I can
Interesting.
introduce you to him.
Yeah, I'm by no means a writer, so all the help I could get there, the better.
Yeah, that's exactly what you'd do. You'd write it your way, or I'd write it my way. He would clean it up and fix it up, and then co-author
Gotcha.
it with you, because he's looking to co-author things like series of books, almost like Ken Blanchard does with books that he writes with people.
Gotcha.
So I'll hook
Interesting.
you up with him. His name's Barry Cohen. I'll connect you with him. So
Yeah, please.
yeah,
Cool.
but that sounds like if it's an area that is something that's a requirement that people need to do and they don't know a lot about it, certainly a hook, a way to get them to you versus other people that don't even know what they're talking about.
Right.
They don't
Right.
even know it's an issue.
Yeah. Yeah, you gave me, that was good insight. I didn't think of it as that way. I immediately think, oh, I got to create a subsidiary LLC and then do all this. So it's like,
Well, maybe you do, but I'm not
maybe I
sure.
don't,
I'm not sure. Yeah, it's
I don't
not
need to
like
overcomplicate it.
the arm strength company where you want a separate company. It's a separate business. You want that company to own the intellectual
Mhm.
capital and the rights to the business, and then license it to another entity. This kind of fits within the digital space. So, I mean, you're not going to do ADA compliance in someone's office space. That's not what you're looking to get into. You're looking to do it on the digital side only. So
Right.
maybe it should just be like a package or something.
Yeah, make things less complicated,
Yeah.
if you
Yeah, I try
can,
not to complicate things just so I can make money as a lawyer. That's one of the
naturally.
lawyers do that. They tend to get involved and complicate the crap out of things. I don't know. They have this inherent need to like convince people that they know a lot of stuff. I don't really care.
Yeah, I'm not
So
sure. I don't know. I don't know too many lawyers. I know a couple, but
yeah.
I feel like I am lost within the conversation quickly because they are they're much better spoken and have a higher vocabulary than I do. So
Yeah, but their job is to make sure that they speak so you understand it. Doesn't matter
right.
that they understand it.
Yeah, very true. Very
So
true.
that's a communication issue. But all right, so it sounds like you got a lot of stuff going on. If somebody wants to get a hold of you or interact with you, how can they do that? What's a good way to kind of meet you and connect with you and things like that?
Sure. So henrybwarner.com,
Okay.
just a simple landing page outlining a little bit about me and some of my business entities, and it'll give you, easy access to just click through to see a little bit more. If there's anybody who's looking to, have me onto it's their podcast or whatever it might be, you know, I'm happy to connect, but that would
Right.
be the best and most efficient way.
Right. And your company's New Wave Digital, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's
New
the
Wave
digital
Digital.
company. The butter's Poochie Butter. We're going to put all these links in the show notes below the video, below the audio when people, pull it up. But either way. So PoochieButter.com is the peanut butter company.
Yep. And then
Yeah.
Total Arm Care is the baseball.
Okay, good. So I got a bunch of things. So you'll send me a like a write up that you want to put in the show notes along with the links to all these things,
Okay.
and I'll send it to you to look at ahead of time and review the audio. And it's just going to take me a while. It'd probably get out middle of July or something when I finally get it
Sure.
edited and up.
Yeah, I'm sure you
And
got your hands full. So
yeah, we all, right? So let me turn off. I'm going to turn off the video, the audio.